Well, what an eventful week it has been. June 13th is going to go down in history as one of the most wild days in MMA history. We literally had like 3 fight cancellations in one day. It was absolutely insane and truly reminded me of UFC 279 in a way, where Khamzat Chimaev missed weight by 8.5 pounds, and then Kevin Holland versus Khamzat Chimaev was made. Khamzat Chimaev versus Nate Diaz was canceled. Tony Ferguson versus Nate Diaz was made, and the whole card was shifted around. Li Jingliang fought Daniel Rodriguez, I believe, and the whole card was just completely thrown on its head. That's kind of what happened, but this has literally affected not just one, not just 2, but possibly 3 or 4 different cards. I'm going to get into all of that. I'm going to go over all the new fights, give my predictions, give my thoughts, and really break down all the different kind of news that we've gotten recently. You know, I made a video yesterday talking about UFC 303. I made a video saying Michael Chandler versus Conor McGregor was never going to happen. Literal hours after me posting that video, the fight was canceled. Dana White confirmed. I already knew the fight was going to be canceled. It wasn't like I saw the video from Dana White and I was like, oh no, the fight's off. I was expecting that video from Dana White. I knew it was coming. It was just a matter of when, because I looked at all the evidence, and all the evidence over the past several months, over the past 15 months, all the evidence has pointed to Conor McGregor and Michael Chandler never fighting, okay? Now, this paired with the fact that over the past couple of days, over the past 10 days, we've been getting just bombarded with information via Ara Hawani, who has his direct information sources from Conor McGregor's team. We were just getting bombarded with information about, the press conference was canceled. Michael Chandler was told not to board the plane. And then, you had Conor McGregor. Apparently there was an injury, and then the fight was going to be canceled. And then there was high optimism, and everything was under control. Everything was taken care of. And then a literal 3 days later, all the optimism is gone. The fight's going to be canceled. It's completely over. And it was truly wild. And then finally the fight got canceled. But then on top of that, the co-main event for UFC 03, Jamal Hill versus Carlos Ulberg, also got canceled. Jamal Hill pulled out, which I am going to be ripping into Jamal Hill. I'm going to be tearing Jamal Hill to shreds in this video. And then on top of that, we also had a new fight added to UFC 303, another new fight added to UFC 303. And then on top of that, Khamzat Chimaev pulls out. He is deathly ill. He was rushed to a hospital. I believe, this is just speculation, I heard a couple people talking about this, but I cannot confirm whether or not it was true. I am almost 100% confident Khamzat Chimaev contracted either bronchitis or asthma during his training camp. He tried to train through it, and if you try to train through asthma or bronchitis, you can literally die. This is just a fact. This is not speculation. Me speculating what happened is speculation, but this is what can happen to you if you do contract bronchitis or asthma and try to aggressively train through it. This is very similar to Khamzat Chimaev all the way back in 2020, where he literally retired from MMA because he started coughing up blood. He literally almost died as well because he contracted COVID-19 during a training camp, and then he had to pull out. I believe he was scheduled to fight Leon Edwards. It was one of those kind of Sean O'Malley, Peter Yan-esque matchups, and Ikram Aliksarov, Robert Whittaker-esque matchup, where you have someone that's unranked fighting a highly ranked fighter. It's a huge step up in competition. It's a huge, jump up in competition. And they were actually scheduled to fight 3 or 4 different times. Khamzat Chimaev had to pull out because of COVID. They tried to reschedule. He had the same recurring issue. After, I believe, the 2nd or 3rd time he had to pull out, I believe that's when he temporarily retired from MMA, because his health was such a concern at the time. Him trying to train through COVID. He was at the time training 5 or 6 times a day. That was back when Khamzat was, the whole Aura Savage, whatever you want to call him, training 5 times a day. You can only imagine what that would do to your health. Now, if you contract asthma, bronchitis, whatever, and you try to train through it, you get some type of respiratory disease, you just try to push yourself as hard as possible, that's one thing. Training as a professional MMA fighter with weight cutting, while trying to build muscle, while trying to perfect your skills, while doing media obligations, all of this, while training on top of that more intensely than the normal person, and doing that 5 times a day is genuinely insane. So I'm not surprised, and this is probably a very similar situation. Once again, this is all speculation, and I'm not a doctor. I am speculating what happened to Khamzat Chimaev. But this is, if I look at all the evidence, I look at what happened, this is what's most likely, in my opinion, the case. So Khamzat Chimaev pulled out. They called a lot of people. I believe Sean Strickland is one of the names that was immediately brought up. And they were probably, the UFC was confident Sean Strickland was going to take the fight. Sean Strickland opted not to. He decided to wait out for a title shot after Dricus du Plessis and Israel Adesanya eventually fight at UFC 305 in Perth, Australia. Sean Strickland decided to sit out. And the only person willing to take the matchup was Ikram Aliksarov. Robert Whittaker versus Ikram Aliksarov was made. And that's the new main event for UFC Saudi Arabia, June 22nd. I'm very excited for that fight. Huge step up in competition. People are complaining about it. People, I saw MMA Guru crying about it. Oh, Dagestani privilege. One, Ikram Aliksarov is not even Dagestani. So what we're doing here, as MMA fans, is if you have a certain religion or if you look a certain way, you are going to be judged differently than other MMA fighters based for the same thing. So let's look at this. A certain fighter will pull out, like Khamzat Chimaev, for example. He has only pulled out one time. I could be wrong, somewhat, because I don't watch MMA as much as I used to, but I'm pretty sure Khamzat Chimaev pulled out of this fight. The only other time he had like a pullout situation was against, obviously, the whole weight miss situation where he missed weight by 8.5 pounds. The problem is he missed weight by 8.5 pounds, and the only reason why was because the doctor told him to stop cutting weight. So if a doctor tells you to stop, it's whose fault is that? If Khamzat was having health issues and a doctor told him to stop cutting weight, that's an issue. I don't like how Khamzat handled the situation. But if that's the case, and there's no evidence, at least that I've seen, someone please bring it to the table. I don't want to say like a black or white, right or wrong type scenario, but I haven't seen any evidence that that's not the case. Khamzat Chimaev was apparently told not to cut any more weight. Obviously missed weight by 8.5 pounds. That makes perfect sense. That would add up. Now, Khamzat could be lying, this and that. If there's evidence of this, please send it over to me. Please put it down in the comments. I would love to hear it. Genuinely, I'm not trying to call anyone out or have some wrong statement where now people are calling me out as a liar, trying to defend Khamzat Chimaev. It's not like that at all. This is just what I know to be the case. Khamzat Chimaev pulls out, and then this other time people are calling him some type of pullout merchant. He literally was rushed to a hospital deathly ill. How is he going to stop that? How is he going to do something different? He's going to fight through that. You know what I mean? But he's being rushed to a hospital. Literally, his life is in danger. So people calling Khamzat a pullout merchant, people criticizing Khamzat in this situation, I understand it's a big letdown. People are setting expectations of Khamzat Chimaev that are literally unattainable. This reminds me of Colby Covington calling out Ian Machado Gary. And you might say, how is this related to Khamzat Chimaev pulling out of a fight with an infection? How is this in any way correlated? The reason why is Colby Covington called out Ian Machado Gary, and when he called him out, he put completely unrealistic expectations on the table. Oh, if you want to fight me, you have to have these three stipulations. All involving his wife or his comment section to IG. Things that every MMA fan, including Colby himself, knows would never come to fruition. Ian Machado Gary is never going to send his wife as some type of sex object to be on your mybookie.ag gambling ad because you're too broke to, you don't even fight in the UFC, so you don't even get paychecks. So clearly you need these gambling ads. You need to sell gambling to, lonely, kind of broke individuals, preying on their downfall, hoping that they spend money on a gambling website using your, promo code, because that's the only source of income you have, because fighting clearly isn't doing it. You fight once every 2 years. So he put out these unrealistic expectations, and obviously they were not going to be met. And that was the whole thing. Oh, I'm going to call Ian Machado Gary out so I can at least say when he does, so we don't, eventually they aren't going to fight. Obviously, the fight didn't come to fruition. And Colby Covington is going to sit there and go, Ian Machado Gary was ducking me. He didn't want the fight. He turned it down. This is what he's going to do. He's going to set unrealistic expectations. And when those expectations are not met, he's going to pretend like he's the boogeyman, like everyone was ducking him. This reminds me of Khamzat Chimaev pulling out of the fight because people are setting these unrealistic expectations. Oh, Khamzat Chimaev is going to be a triple champion. By 2024, he's going to beat John Jones. He's going to beat all these different guys. I never set these expectations on Khamzat Chimaev. I thought he was a phenomenal fighter. I picked him to beat Usman. I thought he would beat Usman. I think that he could beat a lot of these guys. I think that, there's people in the UFC actively that could beat Khamzat Chimaev in his own weight class. I don't think he's unbeatable. I don't think he's some type of juggernaut. I think he's phenomenal. He literally dominated Usman on the ground in a way that we've never seen in all of MMA history. We have never seen a grappler to the level of Kamaru Usman dominated like that. A guy with unstoppable takedown defense, getting literally easily taken down and easily dominated on the ground. We've never seen that before. So, genuinely an incredible grappler, but at the end of the day, he's still beatable. His striking isn't that good. You know what I mean? His cardio, it's suspect. I didn't hold him to these expectations. People hold Khamzat Chimaev to these unrealistic expectations, and when he doesn't meet them, they get mad. That's why. But in general, people hold Dagestanis to unrealistic expectations. And what I truly find funny is based upon the way someone looks or the religion that they follow, they're going to be judged differently than the rest of MMA fighters. If Khamzat Chimaev pulls out of another fight, let's say 3 years from now, he fights, he keeps fighting, he keeps winning, whatever he pulls out of a fight, he's going to be criticized massively. You look at Umar Nurmagomedov. He pulled out of his fight with a shoulder injury against Corey Sandhagen. People, typical Dagestani Dagestani pullout merchant. If someone else pulls out of a fight, if Volkanovski was to pull out of a fight, it would be, get well soon, man. Hope you get back in there, champ. Dustin Poirier pulls out of a fight. Charles Oliveira was sparring without headgear the day before he was supposed to leave with Abu Dhabi. He has not been criticized even remotely to the amount that Khamzat Chimaev, that, Umar Nurmagomedov, just because of the religion and the way someone looks, the religion they follow and the way someone looks, they're going to be judged differently. You know what that's called? That's called racism. That is literally just racism. And that is being against someone's religion. That is hating someone purely because of their religion, and that is judging them differently because of the way that they look. That is racism. That is, I don't know how else to put it. And you guys, racism doesn't exist in MMA. I'm not even going to get into all that. If you judge Khamzat Chimaev or any other Dagestani fighters, if you have an inherent hate towards Dagestani fighters, if you have an inherent bias against Dagestani fighters purely because of the religion or the way that they look or the region of the world they're from, you are a genuinely terrible person. I don't know how to put this. You are a bigoted, biased, racist, anti-religious individual. And it's okay to not like a certain religion. You can have your own opinions. But to judge someone differently just because of they're not doing anything to anyone. They just pulled out of a fight. And you're going to hate on them because of the way, it's genuinely insane. I'm not even going to get into it anymore, but it's genuinely insane. So, obviously the fight's been remade. You have Khamzat Chimaev's son, the guy that he chinned with an uppercut, Ikram Aliksarov, coming in to fight Robert Whittaker. People are hating on Ikram. Dagestani privilege. What else were they supposed to do? No one else wanted the fight. What else are they supposed to do? No fight? No main event now? We're just going to go with the co-main event, move it to the new main event? Would you rather have the co-main event be promoted to the main event and have that fight removed, or keep Robert Whittaker versus Ikram Aliksarov on the card? What would you rather have? Genuinely. Because people are going to say this, but when it actually comes down to it, they want that fight. They want that fight more than not, and that is a fact. But people are not going to say this because they just want an excuse to hate on Ikram Aliksarov for doing nothing. All he did was step up on short notice. He stepped up on short notice, and somehow this is being called privilege. Somehow Ikram stepping up on a short notice is called privilege. Ikram Aliskarov's taking a huge risk. He could get knocked out. He could get dominated. This is not privilege. This is him stepping up to the plate and having a championship mentality. Same with Robert Whittaker. Why is Alex Pereira being praised for this, for stepping in on short notice, but Ikram Aliskarov stepping in on a week shorter, 7-day, even shorter notice is being criticized like, it's some type of privilege. I understand he's not the champion. I understand he doesn't have a great resume. But he's stepping in to fight an absolute killer. And it wasn't like he was gifted this opportunity. Someone pulled out. They needed someone, and he stepped up to the plate. They didn't just call him out of nowhere. Hey, man, you want to fight Robert Whittaker out of nowhere? They didn't offer him this fight immediately. They offered Khamzat Chimaev this fight. Khamzat pulled out. They needed someone to be a replacement. No one else wanted to be the replacement. He stepped up to the plate. What is that? That's called championship mentality. Anyone criticizing Ikram Aliksarov for stepping up to the plate, you're a pussy. You're just a pussy, okay? But we had some excellent fights. So early prediction for Ikram Aliksarov versus Robert Whittaker. I'm going to go Robert Whittaker. I think Robert Whittaker gets it done. He could get chinned. Ikram Aliksarov hits very hard. He has very good grappling. I think Robert Whittaker, he's going to stop the grappling. I think Ikram Aliksarov is going to gas out in the later rounds. I think Robert Whittaker is going to handily win a decision, maybe even TKO him, but I'm going to go Robert Whittaker via decision. And, that's going to be my early prediction. I think it's going to be a relatively clean decision. Robert Whittaker maybe gets in trouble at a couple moments in the fight, but I think it's going to be relatively easy. And then moving on, obviously Conor McGregor versus Michael Chandler's off. Conor pulled out. We have a whole new card now, because obviously Jamal Hill stepped in on short notice. Him and Roundtree wanted to fight. Roundtree pulled out. Carlos Ulberg stepped in, and then Jamal Hill pulled out. So now we have Anthony Smith versus Carlos Ulberg. I'm going to go Carlos Ulberg. I think he can stop the grappling. I think he's the better striker. I think he's going to finish Anthony Smith on the feet in the later rounds. And then also is the co-main event. We have Brian Ortega versus the up-and-comer Diego Lopes, one of my favorite fighters in the world. I think Diego Lopes gets it done. I think he has a lot more power in his hands. I think he's going to get Brian Ortega out of there in the early rounds. I could see Brian Ortega walking him down in the later rounds after, maybe Diego Lopes gasses out and it's kind of like a gritty veteran kind of win where, he gets walked down and maybe even finished kind of like, what's his name? The Brazilian guy that was beat by Benoit Saint-Denis. I forget what his name is. The guy that knocked out Terrence McKinney with a flying knee. Why am I forgetting his name? The guy that knocked out Terrence McKinney with a flying knee. His brother is like a middleweight. And his brother had this performance where he was winning, he was dominating, he got walked down in the later rounds. He was a young up-and-comer. He fought an experienced veteran, got finished in the later rounds. I could see something similar happening here. I could very likely, I could see something happen like that. But as for an early prediction, I think Diego Lopes is going to hurt him early. I think he's going to fall him to the ground. I think he's going to either TKO him, find a submission. Diego Lopes is just so nasty. He's got that finishing instinct. He reminds me of Charles Oliveira. He reminds me of just someone that's improving fight to fight. There was a lot of doubt going into the Sadiq Youssef fight, and he literally passed with flying colors, didn't take a single big shot, knocked him out in the first round. I'm going to go Diego Lopes via knockout. There was a lot of doubt for Diego Lopes going into that fight with Sadiq Youssef, and he passed with flying colors, knocking out Sadiq Youssef in the first round, TKO. Guys, I think in the Brian Ortega fight, it's going to be very similar. I think he's going to finish Brian Ortega in the first round or second round. I just think Brian Ortega is slow. Honestly, this is just a fact. Brian Ortega has slowed down massively. Go rewatch the Yair Rodriguez fight. Both of them even. Yair Rodriguez is scrambling into submissions. When you have Yair Rodriguez locking up your arm in an armbar, I think Diego Lopes is nastier jiu-jitsu. Look what he did to Pat Sabatini. Look at all these different wins he has. Look at what he did to Sadiq Youssef. I think he's going to be so much faster. The speed is going to be way different. Maybe Diego Lopes gasses. He can't get Brian Ortega out of there. Brian Ortega is very tough. Volkanovski couldn't even get him out of there. But at the end of the day, I think no matter how tough you are, if you get locked up in a submission or you get hit too hard, I just think, with the size that Diego Lopes has, he's going to put hands on him, he's going to finish him. And then as for the new main event, Alex Pereira versus Jiří Procházka, the Mortal Kombat matchup to end all Mortal Kombat matchups. I just want to say this right now. Alex Pereira is him. He is literally him. We are living in a simulation. Alex Pereira is the champion we all want. He's the champion we all want. He's the champion we all need. He's fighting the most deserving contenders. Obviously, we need to see him fight Magomed Ankalaev. That's the last big test in the division, kind of. We need to see him fight Magomed Ankalaev. But this guy, he's so incredible. He's fighting so often. Even when he got knocked out, he's making a quick return. He's fighting like 3-4 times a year. He fought at UFC 300. 2 months later, literally 8 weeks later, 8-9 weeks later, he's making a return. It's genuinely crazy. Alex Pereira is one of the most special fighters of all time, and I'm so excited that I get to live in the Alex Pereira era. I could have been born 100 years ago. I could have been born 100 years from now, and I would have never known or experienced Alex Pereira. But I am so happy that I am born in the era that I am, that I get to witness one of the most impressive combat sports athletes to ever walk the face of the earth. Arguably the most impressive combat sports athlete of all time. Of all time. 2-division glory kickboxing champion, 2-division UFC champion, middleweight and light heavyweight, finished Israel Adesanya, finished Jiří Procházka, finished Jamal Hill with one punch. I was going to take a long time to rip Jamal Hill, and I will. And I was going to say I wasn't going to, and I will. Jamal Hill, you absolute pussy. You absolute pussy. You go out there. You talk a lot of crap. You talk a lot of crap to Alex Pereira because you were all friendly. You was asking for his autograph, all this different stuff. The moment the fight, it comes down to the fight, you start talking all this crap. You get chinned. You literally got chinned so quickly. Jamal Hill got chinned in like 2 minutes against Alex Pereira with one punch. And I'm going to put a video on screen. I'm going to put a video on screen right now so we can actually see Jamal Hill's eyes rolling into the back of the head. He talks about, oh, I got hit with a lucky shot and I didn't even get knocked out. He literally said the only reason he went down is because Alex Pereira stepped on his foot and the punch pushed him over. It didn't actually rock him. It only pushed him over. And because Alex was stepping on his foot, that caused him to fall backwards because he got, obviously he couldn't take a step and he got pushed. He literally got knocked out cold. Jamal Hill went completely out cold.
I took no damage. Most of the fall was me falling down. I remember everything. I remember looking up, I remember coming in, trying to block, trying to reach for the underhook. He's able to land some shots and kind of throw my equilibrium off on the other side. But I was coherent the whole time throughout and through for the most.
Similarly, the knockout reminded me very much of Volkanovski versus Makhachev, where Makhachev is teeing off on Volkanovski and Volk's eyes are rolling into the back of his head. Or, Charles Oliveira versus Beneil Dariush, where Beneil is flailing around, his eyes are in limbo, and he's like literally he's like switching between life and death. That's what this reminded me of. I saw this angle of the knockout. I did not realize how nasty, how much damage Jamal Hill took. And for him to do all of this, crying on Twitter, after committing domestic violence, after beating his own brother over $300 in front of his own children, over a couple of dust particles being in his house, after him doing all of that, for him to then pull out of the fight with an injury. And now for Alex Pereira, the guy that he was trying to make fun of, the guy that he was using other grown men's accomplishments to try to push down Alex Pereira, this guy pulls out. Alex Pereira is still injured. He broke a toe against Jamal Hill, and he came into the fight with another broken toe. He steps in, and in the same card that Jamal Hill pulls out of, Alex Pereira is now headlining. What an absolute savage. And as for an early prediction, I'm going to go Alex Pereira second round KO. In fact, let me make this even more predict. Let me go even deeper. I'm going to go Alex Pereira third round knockout. I think Jiří Procházka, the judges aren't going to make the same mistake. There's going to be no early stoppage. I think Jiří Procházka, the damage is going to keep adding up and adding up. His legs are going to keep getting worse. He has a path to victory. He was actually doing very well against Alex Pereira on the feet, teeing off on him, even right before the knockout, landing a lot of good shots. Alex kind of rolling with them, still eating a lot of shots. I think Alex Pereira is going to knock him down multiple times in this fight and eventually put Jiří Procházka out cold. He's going to separate him entirely from consciousness, and this is going to be the first time in the UFC that we see this happen to Jiří Procházka. As for another prediction, Jiří Procházka, I'm going to go Alex Pereira third round vicious knockout. I think it's going to be an absolute war. Jiří Procházka is going to land a ton of good shots. I could see Alex Pereira getting knocked down or even knocked out or submitted in this fight. I'm going to go Alex Pereira via third round knockout. Let me know what you guys think down below in the comments. Don't forget to leave a like, subscribe, turn notifications, all that good stuff. I will see you guys in the next one. Have an excellent day. Peace.